hour, it's not unfair, it's obscene. That's obscene. It's obscene. And then to say that we have to balance the budget on the backs of public workers, I don't hear them talking about the public workers like administrators. I don't hear them talking about public workers like the governor. I don't hear them talking about public workers like the legislators, although a couple of them had said maybe it's time for us to start thinking about this. I hear them talking about public workers who are in the union. And that's because the union is the greatest threat to the corporate domination of our society right now. It's the last bastion. They own the Supreme Court. They bought out all the media chains, so you can barely get on the media if you don't have a corporate-friendly... Here's one. But they bought out most of the media chains, so you can't really get much access. You'll get occasional news-making things like this, but try to get on there the way that you can, say, on Free Speech TV, where you hear about these kinds of things routinely. But on the corporate media that has big power and big money behind it, belonging to these giant media conglomerates, you won't get much coverage. Rachel Maddow, that's one channel on MSNBC, and now her mentor is gone from there.
I know.
So you can bet that we're not going to get that on the big channels. You just don't get it. And when you do, you get a corporate spin. Anybody seen what is it? The big Sunday programs? They used to
Meet the Press.
That used to be something that was hard-hitting, getting to the details. Now it's more like a public spin factory for everybody that wants to promote the corporate agenda. So you can't possibly expect it. And if anybody wants to read a great book, read a book by Noam Chomsky called Manufacturing Consent. That book is phenomenal because it goes into the details of the propaganda model that our national media is right now. And go to read in that, you'll find out that really anything that doesn't support the quote national interests, which are not our interests, by the way. Our interests have a lot to do with what goes on in the nation, but big multinational corporations that rely on our military to give them support overseas to get the resources that they want to sell products and to make things. That's not necessarily something that we can feel good about. That's why people around the world kind of hate us, but I won't go there. We're dealing with Wisconsin right now. We're all here to support Wisconsin because these are the arguments that are being made by walkers, is that you have to get rid of the unions.
Walker has to go! Yeah, Walker has to go!
Walker has to go!
Hey, yo-ho! Walker has got to go!
So the right of workers, the police and the firemen have come out, even though they were exempt from Walker's assault, have come out to support the people because they're like us. They're people. They're not in the power structure. They defend a lot of what is the power structure, but they don't necessarily endorse it if it's anti the population, because they know, first of all, if all of a sudden there were riots all over the place, they'd be completely overwhelmed. You need peaceful demonstration as a right, First Amendment right to redress grievances. And that's what the union provides in the economic area. See, we live in a democracy or a republic, but not when it comes to the economy. When it comes to the economy, we live in a totalitarian regime. You don't get to vote on what goes on in your company. You get to be told what to do, and you either do it or they fire you and get somebody else. Now, the union provides a democratic redress of grievances. People get together, you vote on the contract, there's negotiations, there's bargaining, and it's a rather unanimous kind of situation where people are able to present needs and requests. Workplace environment. We have the unions in this country to thank for every decent working safety standard in this country. For a 40 instead of a 90-hour work week, for not only safety, but a just basic minimum wage, which really would be even less than that if there were no unions. Really, right now, you can't live on a minimum wage. And the fear is, gee, if you get enough union activity, the minimum wage is going to have to come up. Enough people start to see, gee, who controls 80% of the wealth in this country. A very small unions enable workers to band together to offset the otherwise overwhelming bargaining power of employers and make the economy and workplace a fair and more just place. Now that's preaching to the choir, but a real world experience of that is that some people in management think that those avenues of redress already exist because of existing laws. That you can go to your supervisor and discuss something that's not right in the workplace. And that by law they have to pay attention. But we all know that's not true. We all know that when you try to do that, that you'll get retaliation, retribution, demotions, lack of promotions, anything possible to single you out and put you away. If you can have that as a collective bargaining thing, that's part of a contract that they have to be held to, all of a sudden that goes away a little bit. But otherwise there's fear, just like the abuse model. I don't know how many people here, and I don't care, have been victims of abuse, but any time that there's a system of abuse, the abuser sooner or later starts to feel as though it's all somehow their fault, while the abuser continues to take on this role of a dominant oppressor and feels completely justified. We can't see anything that is more relevant today than that way that public employees have been beaten up by the press, beaten up by the private sector, beaten up by management, beaten up by corporate wealth as being the problem in the economy. And that equates to all workers. It's never too much management. It's never too much profit. It's always too much labor costs. And we have to start standing for something that is more just and more equitable. And the union workers in Wisconsin are doing that.
Well, but see, a lot of it,